Welcome to the second module of this e-learning proposal that takes a look at the FDA requirements for IVD developers. The objectives of this module are to map out high-level steps associated with FDA requirements for IVD developers and to a certain extent demonstrate that process using a Class II in vitro diagnostic product as an example. The early development of any IVD involves asking a number of questions. The first is whether the product is a medical device or an IVD. In that same line of thinking is the definition of the intended use, the device class, the type of software involved, what type of quality system needs to be in place, is this product going to need clearance or approval from the FDA, and while not under the direct purview of the FDA, the reimbursement strategy also has to be considered at this time. Of those questions, the one asking about the device classification is key. The short answer to the question, what class is my device, is it depends. What is the intended use of the product? What are the risks? And what's the availability of a predicate? All of these will factor in to whether you are a Class 1, 2, or 3 IVD developer. This frame takes the point about device classification a step further. The designation of Class 1, 2, or 3 will define whether there is simply a registration and listing, a 510K, or a PMA. The intended use, indications for use, and risk assessment associated with the product will contribute to the decision of the exact jurisdiction within the FDA. These are two key points in the management of your review process. This list provides a high-level roadmap for IVD developers navigating through the FDA. All IVD developers must register their manufacturing establishment and must list their devices. Whether or not they must submit a 510K or a PMA will be largely dependent upon the class of their device. An investigational device exemption is needed in cases where IVDs yet to be cleared or approved are going to be used in clinical trials. IVD developers must also conform to quality system regulations, labeling requirements, and post-market responsibilities primarily focused on corrections and recalls and the medical device reporting regulations. The FDA provides an opportunity to talk with them early in the planning process for an IVD product. Historically, these meetings were called pre-IDEs. They're now called pre-submission or pre-sub meetings. IVD manufacturers can basically present their plan for moving forward and gain feedback and guidance from the FDA regarding any concerns with their plan to take the product to market. The development and manufacturing of an IVD must occur according to the FDA Quality System Regulation. It's Title 21 of the Code of Federal Regulations, Part 820. The European equivalent is referred to as ISO 13485. Both are regulations that have their traceability back to the value of business-driven quality systems, such as ISO 9001. Here's a table comparing the different regulatory paths of a 510K and PMA with the FDA. As you can see, there's quite a difference, ranging from the initial fees for submission to the expectations of reporting to the agency after the launch of the product. All IVD developers have post-market responsibilities for their products. These require processes to be in place to ensure the timely reporting of any adverse events or the need for corrections and recalls to the FDA. All of these processes are designed and focused to ensure the safety of the patient. The remainder of this module will focus on 510Ks. 510Ks, also known as a pre-market notification, is the submission process by which IVD developers submit data to communicate their intent to bring their product to market. A 510K typically has a predicate in the documentation that is already on the market and to which the IVD developer compares the performance of their IVD. It's important to know that there are a variety of different 510Ks dependent upon the type of IVD. However, details on these are outside of the scope of this presentation. Shown here is a sampling of the content that would be expected in a typical 510K. The submission would be expected to tie in analytical, clinical, and software performance back into supporting the intended use and instructions for use. In addition, the IVD developer would be expected to include labeling and content such as the product insert that would directly interface with the customer. The FDA will assign a K number to a submission upon its receipt. The general data will be reviewed at a high level to make sure all the major components are present. The review process will then begin. The IVD developer will work with a committee composed of various subject matter experts, and the review process will be iterative. So we've talked about planning for a 510K, provided some high-level points about the actual submission process. Let's now take a minute to look at the post-market responsibilities. An IVD developer who markets a Class II product that's been cleared by a 510K must have a process in place for the review and documentation of all marketing and promotional materials. They must also have processes in place to be able to respond to the timelines defined in the regulations for adverse event reporting and corrections and recalls. These same IVD developers, now referred to as device manufacturers, are also expected to maintain a compliant quality system that is aligned with 21 CFR 820. This includes complaints and CAPA systems, as well as a robust change management process. A key point here is that a significant change could actually trigger a resubmission of the product. Last but not least, device manufacturers are expected to maintain their inputs into the FDA device database and keep them up to date. This concludes the second module of this e-learning prototype proposal, providing some details associated with IVD developers and device manufacturers. Please move on to the assessment associated with this module and continue the review of the subsequent content. Thank you for your time.